your New York Islanders news and expert Islanders analysis from the fourth line in Bridgeport to the first line on Long Island. This is the Dump and Chase Podcast. Hey everybody, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Dump and Chase Podcast. This is episode number 37. We are rocking and rolling, getting close to that big 4-0. A number I know most guys are afraid to get to when they look at it, but a number us as the Dump and Chase Podcast are enjoying. We are 37 episodes deep of this since we started. What did we start? Like the middle of last season, towards the end of last season? But
yeah, middle of last season.
It has been a fun ride, and I'm sure you guys agree with me. Today I have Michael Wilhoff, who you could follow as always at Michael Wilhoff. For someone whose tweets are as witty as Michael Wilhoff's, his Twitter handle is about as plain and normal as it could be. And
well, that's the problem. I waste all my wittiness on the tweets and not the handle.
And we have Rich Diaz Rodriguez. You could follow him at RDNHL. I am Shane Blackburn. You could follow me at Shane V NHL. And today we do not have Andy Graziano with us. Andy, he didn't straight up come out and say this in the email, but me and Mike agree that reading between the lines, Andy thought that watching the Miami Dolphins lose tonight is more important.
Exactly.
Than the podcast.
That's exactly what's going on.
So we are Andy Graziano list tonight. Good luck to his Dolphins. I hope that they lose miserably while he watches them. But then again, this is an Islanders podcast, an NHL podcast, and we don't really care about football. And we have a ton of hockey stuff to talk about, a ton of Islanders stuff to talk about, a couple of things not in Islanders world that we'll get to a little bit later on. But for right now, I mean, how do you not talk about the 4-game winning streak the Islanders have gone on after it seemed that the skies were caving in and the season was over and we should sell our season tickets? The Islanders have turned it around and won 4 straight games, and they didn't win 4 straight games against Winnipeg, Florida, and Buffalo. They won 4 straight games, 3 of which were against, I think, some of the best teams in the NHL, Anaheim, Los Angeles, and Colorado. Then the 4th game being against Phoenix. Yes, Phoenix. I will never call them Arizona. Don't expect me to, because it's not going to happen.
Why?
They are the Phoenix Coyotes, because the Arizona Coyotes just doesn't feel right when it comes out of my mouth.
Okay.
Fair
enough.
enough. Although, I guess the only other sport with a Phoenix would be basketball.
Mm-hmm.
The Suns aren't great, and the Coyotes aren't great, so it makes sense. But let's talk about that first game where the Islanders maybe catch a little bit of a break. They play the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. The Islanders come out struggling a little bit over the past couple of games. They come out, they play against the Ducks. They get a Ducks team missing Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlav, maybe a gift from the hockey gods. They do smile upon the Islanders after all. But the Islanders come out, they play a good game, they win in overtime, which is something that the Islanders haven't always been great at. This year, though, however, they've been pretty phenomenal. Any game that goes into extra time, they have been able to pull out the win. What did you guys think of that game?
Go ahead, Rich. Why don't you take this one to start?
Well, from what I can remember, because it was very late at night, I do remember not thinking that the Islanders had complete hold of the game. I think of the 4 games that comprise this 4-game winning streak, it's those first 2 games, those first 2 wins, showed an Islanders team that knew how to withstand pressure, and it's showed that the 2 goalies, Halak and Johnson, were starting to come into their own, starting to understand the defense in front of them, and starting to learn how to work under pressure. That's what I remember the most. That's what I remember from taking away from that Anaheim game, is the way in which they were able to remain calm in those tight situations.
Yeah, I think that's what I took from it too. It seemed kind of fast at the beginning. You know, you figure when you go out west and you play Anaheim and you play LA, it's going to be a fast-paced game. But I thought they did pretty well. They weathered the storm. They scored first. They scored right at the start of the second period to make it 2-0. But Rich, like you said, what I took from the game was they were up 2-0. Then they give up 2 goals, one right at the end of the second period. They're on the road. They come out for the third, and they weather the storm again. You know, they stop one of the best teams in the NHL from scoring on their home ice.
Mm-hmm.
They force overtime. They play pretty well in overtime, and they end up getting the win. So I think in years past, as we've said before, they would have lost this game. We've seen so many third period collapses, and just for them to do that on the road and kind of, you got the sense watching it that going into the third they weren't going to hold up, but the defense was great, goaltending was great, and I really think that was the turning point so far. It's a very young season, but a turning point nonetheless.
Agreed. What about you, Shane?
As you said, Rich, it was really late. I actually stayed up and watched both of these games, and on the Friday after that, I was a pretty miserable person for a little bit. But I guess it would have been worse had they not won both games. The thing I took from the Anaheim game, and I know we had a podcast right before that, and I opened my big stupid mouth on that podcast, and I said something along the lines of, I hate saying this early in the season, but this is a must-win for the Islanders with a team missing their two best players.
Mm-hmm.
And normally from the Islanders teams that we have seen in the past, they would have gone out and they would have crapped the bed, for lack of a better term, and they would have lost that game. And to see that they came out and they took full advantage of a team in a sketchy situation and went out and just not easily won, obviously they went to overtime, but they went out there and for once in a close game, there was no doubt. And that was nice to see. It was nice to see that the Islanders, there was no, oh my God, I think they're going to lose this game.
Yeah.
So I take that away, as well as the first line being the productive line we expect them to be and scoring all three goals, Tavares, Okposo, and then Tavares again, with Okposo getting the assist on the game winners along with Lubomir Wisnowski. Then we move on to the next night. Something that's always scary with the Islanders is back-to-backs, especially when you look at the schedule and it's the Anaheim Ducks and then the Los Angeles Kings, especially when you go out there and the Kings take the lead in the first period 1-0. What did you guys take away from this game, which the Islanders would eventually go on to win 2-1 in a shootout?
Go ahead, Mike.
I think for kind of similar to last game, for me it was the defense again. I think Johnson, especially in net, having seen Halak do so well against the Cup champion Kings, and maybe saying to himself as he sat on the bench watching that game, I have to come out. It's a back-to-back. I'm going to get the start tomorrow. I need to come out and show that I am still an above-average backup goaltender. And even though he gave up the first goal, that was the only one he gave up. He played very well that game. And for people who are kind of nervous about, well, maybe Johnson isn't the best, or Halak for that matter before that, but for Johnson to come out and shut them down, he stopped both shots of the shootout. He hung on for 2 periods against, I think, the best team in the NHL, and he gave them a chance to win, and they did. They rewarded him for the great effort and goal, and I think for him that was, I hate to say it again, is a turning point for him, but he's going to carry that forward. And I think a win on the road against a very good team like that, and that kind of effort to go 2+ periods shutting them out, and even in the shootout not allowing a goal, I think that's a big step in the right direction for him.
Agreed. I take away from that game the fact that that's when I believe the special teams took they turned a corner. I mean, they kept LA off the score sheet while a man down. If I'm not mistaken, there were 3 or 4 penalties that night. The Islanders were flawless, and they haven't let in a power play goal in quite some time, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that correct? Isn't it like
that's
12
true?
games?
12 times.
12 times. Yeah,
opportunities, and yeah, you're right. 4 in the LA game.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 4, and because I wrote that down somewhere in these notes, but I do believe that what I remember from that game the most of all is how there was a change, a visible change to that PK, and it hasn't changed in the last few games. It has been as stable and as solid as I saw it that first night last Thursday.
All right, and I can definitely agree with both of those points. The thing I took away from that is that they went behind early in a game that you might not expect them to win, managed to turn around and tie it on a power play goal, something that we have in the beginning of the year were a dime a dozen, and now not so much, but a good power play there to put one home. That was, of course, Brock Nelson. I mean, why wouldn't it be? And then to go on and win the shootout, it was good to see Johnson's confidence in the shootout. He knew he had both of them, the first one against Kopitar and the second against Carter. So good to see them come out in a game that was definitely an easy to lose game against arguably the best team in the NHL on a back-to-back on a night that they just won a game in overtime. And I have to say, I do agree wholeheartedly with the decision to go with Chad Johnson. I know we do need to see some sort of starter preference towards Halak as we get further into the season now. I think Halak should see the majority of the games from here on out. But back-to-backs, an overtime game the night before, it would have been foolish, I think, to go with Yaroslav Halak. And it was good to see Johnson get his confidence up and give up, obviously, that first goal to King, but after that, shut the door on the next 27 shots. We move on now. There was a one-day break between these two games, and I say that because I'm driving myself crazy with this 2 days with no Islanders hockey. I'm ready to freak out. I cannot wait for tomorrow night. But on Saturday, the Islanders played fine. I'll call them Arizona. The Arizona Coyotes. The first shutout of the year for the Islanders, as well as Yaroslav Halak's first shutout as an Islander. I give credit to Yaroslav Halak for the shutout, obviously. My only problem is he only faced 19 shots. So is that like a Marty Brodeur-esque shutout where Marty Brodeur got a ton of shutouts and had a good goals against average because his defense never gave anything up? Obviously, you have to give him credit because he did face 19 and none of them got past him. But the number that sticks out the most to me for this game, guys, is the 19 shots against and how the defense-first mentality has finally resonated in the heads of our players, forwards and defensemen alike. Rich, what do you got?
I agree. I don't know about the. I mean, it's not a bad thing, right? That defense woke up. I mean, it's no shot against Halak, but I agree that this game really wasn't the Islanders' best game. But these are the kind of games that Halak has to steal for the Islanders, and this is the kind of game where, if you're going to compete in the playoffs, if you're going to consider yourself a playoff contention team, you have to win these games where your defense isn't there. 0 for 3 on the power play, 5 for 5 on the PK. This is all. This is where your defense wins. It's your best. Your defense is your best offense here. And Halak with the shutout and the Islanders' defense. And this is where we start seeing a much more prominent Wisnowski. This is when I started noticing Wisnowski's presence more. I see more confidence on with his shot. He's not as hesitant anymore. He's thinking shoot first, pass later. Something I saw against Colorado, which I know we'll talk about soon. I don't know, Mikey. What do you think?
I think, going to Shane's point, the 19 shots against, I think that's a great sign. I mean, maybe Halak, he did what he had to do. He shut him out. He stopped everything that came his way. The fact that he only got 19 shots is a testament to, I think, maybe the team adopting Capuano's system, or at least executing on it a little better. If you hold a team to 19 shots on goal, I'm trying to look up the shot chart now for that game, but it's not loading. But 19 shots on goal means about 30 shot attempts for your opponent, and that's a pretty low number for a team to only allow 30 shot attempts rounded. So I think for the goaltending to not have to work as hard to keep a team in the game, I think the team did a good job of keeping pucks at the outside and blocking shots, and not even letting the Coyotes shoot when they wanted to. So I think, and especially on a getaway day, you're out west, you played 5, this is your 5th game, and I'm sure all they wanted to do was get back home, get on the plane and get back home. So for a team that there's a letdown spot, possibly they're playing a team that's not very good. Maybe they weren't up for the game as much as they were for the Kings or the Ducks. But for them to come out and grind down a team and win in the final minute, get on the plane and go home happy, I think that's a great sign. Teams that want to win in the playoffs, teams that want to make the playoffs and win series in the playoffs, have to win games like this during the regular season. And for them to do that, it's great.
This if you go back to the Winnipeg loss all the way up until the Colorado win, this could have easily been like 2-5, 2-6. I mean, and we could have been thinking about a whole different, we could have been thinking the Islanders are pretty much out of it. This is it. It's it's doomsday. The fact that, like you said, Mikey, the fact that they are able to, like, we see different facets of Islander hockey throughout these last 4 games. We see a team we see a resilient team, right? We see a battling team, and then we see a dominating team in Colorado. The Colorado matchup that you went to, Mikey. And so you're seeing different facets of Islander hockey coming to fruition. Now the question is, can these players, decide, okay, today's the day we dominate. Today's the day we withstand. Today's the day we play it safe and we're opportunistic. So it's interesting because the Islanders don't have one specific kind of characteristic to their game, and that's what I noticed. That's the most resonating thing about the last few games, guys, is the fact that I see different identities, all which the Islanders have under their control, but it's not something I've been used to the last few seasons.
All right, and obviously, guys, Franz Nielsen scored his team-leading second game-winning goal in that Arizona game to give them the 1-0 lead. 1-0 is a score we're not used to seeing the Islanders win by, so it's good to see them win a close one. 3 close ones in a row, 3 one-goal games in a row, which was followed up by the shellacking that they put on the Colorado Avalanche at home on Tuesday. I mean, this game was one of my favorite games to watch so far of this season because they just put it all together into one giant game plan. I mean, 2 goals a period is incredible. They went out and they really just took it to a Colorado team that earlier in the season in Colorado took it to us just as hard. But one thing, guys, 19 shots against the Coyotes and 20 shots against Colorado. So the defense first thing seems to be working, and it's not just the defense playing defense first. I mean, if you look at the last 4 games, there is not a single player in the negative rating.
Mm-hmm.
There are 3, 4, 5 players even, and then everyone else is at least +1, with the highest plus-minus rating being Hamonic at +4.
No, Leddy at 6.
No, not just in the last 4 games.
Oh, in the last 4 games? All right.
Yeah, in the last 4 games, Hamonic is +4, leading the team. Overall, with a +6 is Nick Leddy. Nick Leddy, who I think is the most underrated addition of this team. But what do we think? Just what do we take from this Colorado win, the 6-0 Colorado win? I mean, one of the arguably the most talented offensive teams. We face Duchesne, Landeskog, McKinnon, O'Reilly, and McGinn, and still we give up only 20 shots and no goals against.
Mikey, you were there. What was it all about, man?
It was interesting. We'll put it that way. I've been to games where, and Rich, I'm sure you know too, when you go into the room afterwards and everyone's just heads down, it's quiet, nobody's talking, and they'll stand up and they'll give you the quotes and say, we just need to get pucks deep and we need to try harder and we need to shift. And, it almost rings hollow when you said, well, if you keep saying that, you need to do that, and you go out there and lose more than you win, are you just saying it to say it, or do you really believe it? But after the game against Colorado, where, like you said, Shane, 2 goals a period, every time Colorado had a chance to come back or build a little momentum, it was almost like the Islanders tightened up and stepped on the throat a little bit and said, you know what, not tonight. We're gonna blow you out, and that's just the way it's gonna go. But after the game, they were saying all the same things, and Capuano said his spiel, the same thing you'll hear almost after every game. But they said, we executed tonight. We've been told time and time again we have to play more responsible defensively. We have to get pucks deep. We have to hound the puck when we're on defense, things like that. And even Kuhlman's shorthanded goal was pretty emblematic of that. He's kind of the workhorse now. He's the defensive stalwart. He gets rewarded for pressuring the puck on the PK, and it just kind of symbolized everything that happened in that game, where they finally executed, and we saw everything come together. Like you said, Rich, they put it all together. It was a defensive effort, and the defense generated offense. I think the one concern, and it's not even concern from that game, is this happened in the first minute or minute and a half. Duchesne came down the wing, and he put one right off the bar, and everybody in the building thought it was in. They thought it went back bar and out. But if he scores there, maybe it's a little bit of a different game. I don't think the Islanders lose it. But the fact that they took a chance against, it almost goes in, it doesn't, and then they score a couple minutes later and just keep scoring and scoring and scoring. I think that's a sign of a team that's ready and not 100% healthy, but they're ready to move forward, and they know and are confident in their ability to win games now.
And I mean, I honestly thought, like I said before, this was a whole different type of an Islander team. I think this was the period at the end of the sentence as far as the stretch of games were concerned. I think the Islanders, I've never seen them play so so absolutely, I guess headstrong. I guess for lack of a better term, Mike. And Shane, I mean, Dad and I were sitting around watching this game, and we looked at each other and said, "This is probably one of the best regular season hockey games we have seen in a very long time." And to come at home, I can't remember. I think aside from the then Phoenix Coyotes, right, when the Islanders beat them 7-1, I think that was the last time the Islanders had a drubbing like this at the Coliseum, and for a very long time. And I was supremely impressed with the defense, and Wisnowski for me was the standout. I don't know how he looked in person, Mike, but on TV he was everywhere. He had eyes everywhere.
Real quick, Rich. He had one zone entry on a power play, and we've seen him carry the puck up on the power play for a couple years now. But he had one zone entry where he hit the red line, he put on the brakes, he kind of went right, and then he went left, and everybody just kind of froze. And he wove his way right through a couple defenders, and they set up the umbrella like it was nothing. So he did look good in person.
Yeah. What do you think, Shane?
Well, my favorite thing from the Colorado game is Ryan Strome getting the monkey off his back and getting his first of the season. I think that's may not open the floodgates per se, but I think it's gonna open the door for more offensive play from Ryan. I think he just needed to get that first one. You could see he was maybe trying a little bit too hard to get that first one and like shake the monkey off the back and just relax. But now that he's done it, I think that line is going to be even better than they were, and that's a scary thought that line can get better than they already have been, because I think they've been our best all-around line over the past couple of games. The kid line I'm talking about, obviously, of Strome, Nelson, and Lee, a line that I think should have been together longer than they have been, but I will take it now because they are playing phenomenally. But I'm very happy that Strome got his first there. It was nice to see Casey get his first as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cizikas works his tail off game in and game out, so it was nice to see him get his first in the game against Colorado. We had 2 goals from defensemen, Leddy and Hamonic. So not only are the forwards helping out defensively, but the defensemen are helping out offensively as well. It's just been all-around good play, as Tom just said in our questions and answers section of this, which, by the way, if you guys are listening and watching this, there is a questions and answers section that you could click on and ask us anything you want to ask us. We will screen it and answer it, but there is a questions and answers section. But Tom says the last 4 games have been the best complete games the team has played, and I completely agree with that.
As do I.
Over the past 4 games, guys, the Islanders have 11 goals for and only 3 against. Of those 11 goals, though, I think one of the most important facts and stats of those 11 goals is they're from 10 different goal scorers. Only one person has multiple goals over the past 4 games, and that's Tavares. Mm-hmm. Other than that, there have been 10. Besides Tavares, there were 9 other guys who scored 10 goals.
Right, and isn't it kind of weird that we're talking about a team that scored 11 goals in 4 games, and the headlines aren't all Tavares is putting this team on his back? Yeah. All I've heard is that he's been kind of quiet. He's still trying to find his way, but he's still leading the team in goals this month. It's not like he's playing bad. He's just
right.
There's so much going on around him that it's very easy to. We're so used to seeing him carry the team, and when he doesn't, it's always a little surprising. But the fact that the rest of the team is picking him up at this point, I think that's great. You really can't get any better than that.
He has the help now. 100% he has the help now. He doesn't need to put the team on his back anymore. He had 2 goals and 2 assists in the last 4 games. He led the team with 4 points in this winning streak stretch. There were 2 other people with 2 assists, Strome and Nelson. Hamonic led the team +4. They've only given up 3 goals over the past 4 games, so 11-4, 3 against, an 8-goal differential. Here's a big one, though. 141 shots for the Islanders and only 101 against. And that's against 3 very good offensive teams, Anaheim, Los Angeles, and Colorado, when they only gave up 101 shots, a 40-shot differential. Obviously, those are shots that made it to the goal, not shot attempts, but still, good numbers coming from the Islanders team.
Yeah.
And they're a combined +25 over the last 4 games as a team. So those are numbers we are not used to seeing as Islander fans, that is for sure.
No, it's unbelievable to look at their advanced stats with the possession metrics, Fenwick and Corsi and whatnot. They're out-possessing their opponents. They're out-chancing their opponents at a rate I don't think they've ever done before. And even when they're up goals and they're supposed to sit back defensively, we saw it in the Colorado game. They were up, 2 and 3 and 4-0, and they're still pushing and still playing, almost playing harder. If you do the eye test kind of thing, they look like they wanted it more, and they were playing harder than Colorado. And yes, Colorado was on the road, and they felt maybe that they were the better team coming in because they just beaten the Islanders 5-0. But the Islanders, they looked better, they looked hungrier, and the numbers bear it out. And we're seeing, they haven't played badly this year possession-wise, and now we're seeing that come to fruition almost with all the goals. You can get all the shot attempts in the world, but people aren't going to care if you don't score. And now they're finally scoring, so the possession numbers are really, we've talked about it before. They're backing up the fact that a team is playing well, and now we're seeing them score the goals. So it's all coming together for this team, and for it to be in November, yeah, it really couldn't come at a better time, I guess, because if things had gone south, we know how the stories would be coming out now.
That's right. And, Mikey, you mentioned this in the last podcast when we were talking about Halak, and he didn't look, he was looking shaky at best. Mm-hmm. And you said the numbers don't lie. Halak has proven that he can reach, a decent save percentage if given the time and he gets through his rusty period. And I think what better way to prove you right than not one but two consecutive shutouts against two pretty decent, well, at least one pretty decent team and one upcoming team. And his win against Anaheim was also pretty impressive. So, I mean, he's playing to his numbers, and I think he's going to actually pan out. And if he pans out in November, December, I just don't see us not making the playoffs, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean, goaltending is very up and down. We've talked about it before. He was like 880 save percentage-wise coming in. The last couple games, couple shutouts, he was like 950 or 952. So it's very easy to overreact to what you last saw. And I get it. As a fan, when you watch a game and your team doesn't play well, there's a visceral reaction. And if you see someone take a shift off or you see a goalie off his angle give up a soft goal, it's very easy to yell at the TV and say this guy sucks. But when he puts up back-to-back shutouts, you got to realize, take a step back, look at the bigger picture. He's regressing positively. His averages are coming back up to respectability. The back of his hockey card, so to speak, he's going to be that guy. He's a true number one, and we're seeing it now. He's not going to shut out everybody, but the fact that he is balancing things out so extremely, he was very, he was rough to start. Now he's very good. He's going to be, right in there as we go through the season.
Do they still make hockey cards, Mike?
You know what? I couldn't tell you. Last one I had was like 97 or 98.
Before we jump ahead now, guys, and look at what we have coming up against the Islanders, we're 15 games in, and we have some leaders in the stat departments for the Islanders. Goals, I'm just going to brush my shoulder off here, as it's my man Brock Nelson. He's got 7 of them. Right behind him is Tavares, and then Nielsen and Okposo are even at 5. Assists, it's JT. He's got 10 of them. Okposo and Strome have 9 apiece, and then Boychuk and Nelson are at 8. So Nelson in the top 3 in both goals and assists. And then in points, it's JT leading the way with 16. Nelson's got 15 right behind him. And following up Nelson is Okposo with 14. So the names, 2 names you would expect to see up top, being Tavares and Okposo, are in the top 3 of all 3 categories. A name that I was very high on and I expected to see, but I don't know if everyone agreed with, Nelson in the top 3 of all 3 categories, number 2 actually in points and leading the team in goals. I know some of them were lucky. I mean, getting his knee on the Boychuk shot and a couple of rebounds, but still Nelson right up top. It's good to see the young kids, Nelson and Strome, being in the top 3 of assists. So the team all around is just playing well from front to back. The fourth line has really stepped up their game, and I want to segue with the fourth line comment. Bailey's taken off the IR. Bolton sent on it, meaning Bailey will probably be in the lineup tomorrow night. What does that mean for this team that just won 4 games in a row? Now, I'm not too concerned about breaking up the chemistry because Bolton played 3 of the 4 games and Conacher came in the 4th and didn't really make too many ripples throughout the lineup. They came out, they won 6-0. If anything, he helped. I don't contribute that obviously directly to him, but he didn't do anything to ripple the lineup. So where does Bailey go tomorrow if he does make the lineup, which I'm assuming he will?
Mikey, what do you think?
I'm trying to think of the lines that Staple tweeted out today. I think he's got to go back on the second line. Obviously, Kuhlman won't be there alongside him. But I think he has to go right there. He was there as part of that checking line with Nielsen. Now he'll be there with Nielsen and Grabowski. I think that's a very strong second line. If you look around the league, there aren't many that are better, at least on paper. And I think the way Bailey was playing before he got hurt, and he wasn't out for as long as we thought he'd be, but I think the way he was playing before, it'll translate right into him getting on the ice tomorrow and going about his business as now a defensive-minded winger. I don't think he needs to go out there thinking he has to score the game-winning goal. I think he looked around, he saw they won 6-0 against Colorado. He's maybe a little less pressure on himself to score. He can go out and be Franz Nielsen basically on the wing and try to shut down whoever he's matched up against, assuming the other team's top lines in both games. So it's a tough assignment, but I think he'll slide right in there. If anybody is out there thinking that chemistry is going to be messed up because Bailey's coming back, I think he only makes the team better. Like you said, Shane Bolton played a couple games, they still won, and that's not a knock against Bolton, but he's not Josh Bailey. Anytime the chemistry question comes up, what do you do when a good player is returning from injury? Without a second thought, you put him in the lineup and you let him do his thing. He's going to be fine. The team's going to be fine. I think it can only help to have him back.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Mike. He put him back in that area, in that second line. You let him find his way back. Josh Bailey, just like this entire Islander team, I think if any player, and we've said this in email chains before, if any player for me epitomizes what the Islanders have been these last few seasons, it's Josh Bailey. Meaning filled with talent, but a day late and a buck short, right? Mm-hmm. And this year, Josh Bailey goes on the IR or whatever. He gets injured and he comes back, and I don't see him having a problem going back. This team is just it's just a mindset. It's there. You said it best. 6-0. He saw it with his own eyes. He knows he can find his way. Maybe he'll play a little more defensive-minded, but he'll find his goals. He'll find his way back. I love it. Him coming back only makes us better.
How funny is it that 15 games into a season that in this past offseason fans are calling for Bailey's head, people are mad because he was on the IR.
Right. That's just the fickle nature of fandom and hockey. But it's beautiful because it goes to show you that you could lay an egg for a whole 2 seasons, 3 seasons, a whole career, and then you can come back and just be like an ace, and everybody loves you and forgets about the fact that you were a scrub for 4 years.
Now I kind of figured that everyone was going to agree that Bailey would go with Nielsen and Grabowski, but now the question becomes that fourth line, because we assume Clutterbuck will move back down to the fourth line. I don't think Clutterbuck will bump Lee or Strome off of that kid line because that line's just too good. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming it'll be Clutterbuck and Cizikas, but now we've got 2 people battling for that last wing spot. Do we go Martin or do we go Conacher?
May I answer that first? I believe ever since Andy had asked that question 2 podcasts ago about the play of Matt Martin, bringing it to the forefront of our conversation, saying that he doesn't get a pass anymore for being Matt Martin, being that homegrown gritty player, that it's always good for a hit here and a block there. For me, Matt Martin is the most improved Islander on that fourth line, more so than Cizikas, even though he did score. Matt Martin, for me, block shots, hits. He's picking up his checks. He's skating across neutral zones to pick up, on the back check. I don't know what you guys have seen, but what I've seen of Matt Martin is a lot more hustle and a lot more conscientious hockey. He stays for me.
Yeah, I think he stays for now until Grabner comes. The lineup's looking really good. But I think Martin stays for now. Conacher has bounced around a little bit, so maybe that's hindered his ability to kind of get in the flow of things a little bit. But I don't think he's shown enough to warrant a spot over Martin, and it's a tough call, and I guess it's a good problem to have. Like, who's your fourth line left wing going to be? We have 2 guys who are neck and neck, but I think Martin hangs on for a little bit. He does what you want a fourth liner to do, which is hit anything that moves and frustrate the other team. To have Clutterbuck on that line, he's going to be that little brother type and just get under people's skin, and then Martin will come over and clean him up. So it's going to be I guess more of not an energy line, but I guess a feistier line, maybe is that the term? But
Mhm.
I think he's there for now. I think Conacher sits, and then when Grabner gets back, you know, good luck trying to fit him in somewhere. But it's going to be a good lineup. It's going to be a very deep lineup.
Yeah, yeah. When you think about that, I keep forgetting. I'm not forgetting that Michael Grabner's on his team, but
Hmm.
when you realize the depth that we have now and the way we're winning games, because we're winning games in many different ways, you forget that you also have an ace in the hole in Michael Grabner, who, for all intents and purposes, can do.
He's like a jack in the hole. I wouldn't quite call him an ace.
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on a second, Shane. Yes, I agree with you. He hasn't always been the most reliable hockey player, but 3 years ago, we were seeing the exact same thing of Kyle Oposo. So maybe this is the year that Michael Grabner, again, has a
Uh,
Kyle Oposo kind of year, and we're
eh,
like, holy cow. And like, this guy can
Well,
skate
there,
and he can
there
shoot.
were definitely more flashes out of Okposo, and Okposo is definitely the more talented player. I don't see Grabner ever being the player a lot of Islander fans want him to be. His speed brings tremendous amount to this team, but I don't ever see him being a top 6 NHL player. He's just not. In my opinion, he's just not up to par with what we want in the top 6 of this team.
I
I
think
take
that
Josh Bailey over Grabner hands down this season.
okay, because the skill set is definitely on Bailey's side. But I will say this: both Josh Bailey and Michael Grabner suffered from the same type of anxiety that
I the only thing I have with that is I think Grabner is very one-dimensional. I think his only game is his speed. Once he's in the offensive zone, to me, there are too many times that he looks lost.
I just think that he's holding his stick too tightly, and I think that if you have Kuhlman and Michael Grabner on the PK, you have a very serious arsenal there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at Kuhlman. He has 2 goals on the season. Both of them are shorties.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't even put them on the same penalty kill. I would put them on 2 different ones because now no matter which penalty kill is on the ice, you have to worry about someone with speed that could burn you.
Yep.
My concern is that there are people on this team, and there's nothing against Michael Grabner. I think he's a very good hockey player, but there are people on this team I think deserve spots on higher up in the lineup than he does
So
because
okay.
of the skill set more than just the speed.
So you're basically saying, and this is a very good argument to have, and I'll let you guys deal with it. So it really boils down to this: Corey Conacher versus Michael Grabner.
No,
Especially,
I think, and I really don't like saying this, and it kills me to say, I think our fourth line becomes Clutterbuck, Cizikas, and Anders Lee, and I think Grabner gets slotted in with Nelson and Strome.
you guys really don't see the improvement that I guess maybe I'm just I don't know. I
No,
love Matt Martin, but I just you guys don't see the improvement.
but so would you rather scratch Anders Lee and see Matt Martin play?
I would rather scratch Corey Conacher.
Conacher's out of the lineup already if Grabner's in that third line slot. I'm talking about when Grabner comes
Oh,
back.
okay. So when
I think
Grabner comes
Grabner
back-
plays with Nelson and Strome, and
Yeah,
Lee
yeah.
plays with Clutterbuck and Cizikas.
Yeah. See, this is exactly what we were afraid of, right? Like,
Which I don't like saying because I like Lee, Nelson, and Strome, but you're not going to put Grabner on the fourth line either.
yeah,
I would almost disagree with that. I think Grabner would be better suited to the fourth line role because then we don't have that argument about Capuano's using the fourth line too much because with Grabner on it, with Clutterbuck on it, Cizikas hasn't been up to par yet, but he's getting there. He got a goal in the last game. I mean, that's a fast a line that will agitate other teams. I think in 8 to 10 minutes a night, very effective.
That's
If you
more
want
like
to
a
play,
it's more
go
like
ahead.
a 3B than a 4.
Right, exactly. And Grabner will get his minutes on the PK, whether it's the top unit or the second unit. So it's not like he's wasting away on the fourth line, so to speak. And even Clutterbuck, he plays penalty kill too. So I mean,
do you really
if
think that
if I
Capuano's
don't
that
know if they
progressive?
right, I don't know if they will put Grabner on the fourth line. I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if they did. I mean, we've talked about Capuano having um, however you want to say he has a lot of he's pretty superstitious, I guess, is for lack of a better term. So if he sees the chemistry on the kid line, he'll be a little hesitant to break that up, and we can sit here and say all day, well, chemistry doesn't matter, you can slot anybody in, this is like a video game, you put together your roster and you let them go do it. But for him, he sees them every day, he sees the chemistry up close, he coaches these guys, so if he sees them playing well, maybe he doesn't bump Lee, even though Grabner is more talented than Lee, I think, at this point. But maybe he just slots in Grabner on the fourth line and says, go after it. It's going to be, like we said before, it's going to be a good problem to have, but I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if Grabner starts off on the fourth line and maybe works his way up, or if that's his new role, he's just going to be the guy to fly around for 8 to 10 minutes and kill penalties.
Interesting. Very interesting.
All right, one final thing, guys, before we look ahead to this weekend's matchups. Two, actually, as Tom in the questions and answers section says he thinks Grabs goes to the fourth line, so he agrees with you, Mikey. He says that he's played on the fourth line before, can be physical, and is a massive weapon that could be unleashed on other fourth lines when it's fourth versus fourth. And he also says, actually, I'm going to save that question because I like that question, so we'll save that for a little bit later, Tom. But player of the week, we haven't done it in the past couple of weeks. Our shows have been kind of unscheduled and scattered because of scheduling conflicts. But player of the week, let's go with Rich first. Who do you got?
Oh boy, I wasn't prepared for this.
Read your emails, then you would have been prepared for it.
Yeah. Well, based on what? I guess based on my own.
Yeah, based on your own, it could be stats-wise, eye test. It's just your player of the week.
Oh, okay. Based on my...
And I apologize because I'm not one who should tell people to read their emails.
It's okay, Shane. It's my fault. But listen, but I will say, and I'm sorry if I sound like one-sided and one-dimensional like Michael Grabner says, Shane, but I will... Nikolai Kulemin for me. I don't know what it is about this player. My dad and I never agree on anything. But we both agree. Like, this team is completely. I was gonna ask you guys this question, but I'll save it for later. I believe that first line is better because Nikolai Kulemin's on it. I think that line
they're definitely more responsible.
Yeah, Nikolai Kulemin. If you go to live games, you'll see him cut across the neutral zone, going after his player when they're breaking out of their own Islanders zone. He's the most responsible hockey player who is not Franz Nielsen. For me, he is by far. You say Nick Leddy's underrated? I don't think so at all. I think Nikolai Kulemin is the most underrated New York Islander that is currently on the roster. Wonderful player.
All right, Mike, what do you got?
I agree, Rich. I think he's very, very defensively responsible. He finishes every check, regardless of game situation or where he is on the ice or anything. He eliminates his man, and he has made the top line immeasurably better from what it was at the beginning of the year with the Conacher experiment and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I think for my player of the week, I have to go with Halak. 2 straight shutouts, bouncing back, .952 save percentage, all that stuff. He has, he's been unbelievable, and this is what everybody expected from day one. And he's a slow starter by nature, and now he's finally rounding into form. And the fact that the Islanders can score 6 goals a game and have a guy post shutouts, that's a very, if one falters, the other kind of picks up the slack, so to speak. So I think Halak for me has been the player of the week far and away. Even he hasn't faced 40 shots a game, but he's stopped everyone that's come his way. So you can't win if you keep getting scored on. So to have the type of goaltending that he's put forth is something we haven't seen in a long time, and hopefully we'll see for the rest of the year. Obviously not shutouts every game. Let's keep things in perspective, but he's been the best. There's really no way around it.
By the way, before you give us your player of the week, Shane, did you see Shannon interview Nikolai Kulemin in the last game?
I missed it. Everybody was talking about it. You guys got to tell me.
Shane, but did you see it?
I was at work, so I was watching it on mute.
She goes, the last question she asked Nikolai Kulemin was like, so growing up in Russia, we're trying to get to know you guys, the new guys. So who was your inspiration growing up? I mean, which Russian player did you watch? And he was so absolutely rude. It was hilarious. He's like, I don't remember. It's just... I don't... And I'm like, wow. He just left her. She didn't know what to do with herself. She
just left her hanging.
He just left her hanging. But you know what? I got a sense of Nikolai Kulemin is all business. Like, when he's on the ice, he doesn't even want to be interviewed. He just wants to be left alone to do his thing.
Real quick, Shane, before you go, when I talked to him, I went into the room afterwards, and him and Grabo they were speaking Russian, and they were talking to each other. Nobody was really around, and we all went to our different guys. And then I went back, and I talked to Kulemin. I said, so what'd you think of that goal? When you were... Tell me, walk me through it. What did you, what'd you see? And he says, he said, I thought I saw a defenseman behind me, and then I didn't, and I made my move, and it went in. And I was like, well, that's pretty succinct, and that's actually what happened. Yeah, he is all business. He really, he'll just tell it like it is,
I took puck, I shoot, I score. That's it.
Very short to the point. Right.
Nikolai is own inspiration.
So Shane, who's your player of the week before we get too sidetracked?
Well, I have to apologize to Tom. We're 2 out of his 3. He said the 3 stars have to be Kuhlman, Halak, and Hammer. We got 2 out of 3. I am not going to go with Hammer. I'm going with Ryan Strome. I was really happy to see him get the monkey off the back. Like I said, he had 3 points in the 4 games, 2 assists and a goal. It was a +2. I think that line as a whole has just been really good. I think Strome has been playing much better than he was in the beginning of the season when people were unsure if he should stick around or not. He looks stronger on the puck. He looks better defensively. He's making smarter decisions, and I think he has just been a great all-around player. I think he's going to be more like a John Tavares than we were expecting. I think people were expecting Strome to be the sniper to Tavares' playmaker, where after watching the first 15 games, I think Strome is more the same type of player where he's going to look to set up the sniper or the goal scorer on his line, which is why I like him with Lee and Nelson. So I'm just going to go with Ryan Strome here.
Okay. No Brock Nelson love. All right.
No Brock Nelson love this week. I got plenty of weeks left to give it. I have my jersey to wear when I finally get to the Coliseum at some point when they stop playing Tuesday night home games when I'm at work. Because I work every Tuesday and it drives me crazy because I can't go to any of the Tuesday games, and it seems like that's the only time they play at home is when I have work. So it's been kind of tough to get to a game. But now let's jump ahead and let's look at this weekend's matchups. We have a back-to-back tomorrow into Saturday. Both games on the road, both games in the Dirty South. We got games against Florida on Friday and Tampa Bay on Saturday. I'm going to be honest and say the Florida game scares me more because it's a trap game. It's a game where we're coming off a 4-game winning streak. We're playing a team that, for all intents and purposes, we should beat. I mean, we're 10-5. They are 5-4-4. This is a team that the Islanders at this point should beat, but I think it's a trap game, and I'm more worried about that game than I am about Tampa Bay on Saturday night. Key players for Florida, guys. Aaron Ekblad, he's got a goal and 7 assists through the first 13 games for Florida. The first overall pick, I guess, living up to the hype of being the first overall pick as a rookie defenseman on a not terribly great team. Jussi Jokinen, a goal and 6 assists. Obviously, he's been around forever. And the key to this game, I think, for the absolute key to this game for Florida, I think, is going to be Roberto Luongo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's 5-3, 3-1 with a 219 goals against average and a 928 save percentage, which is good on a bad team.
Great. I think this is the kind of game the Islanders usually lose.
Exactly. That's why I'm more worried about it. Mikey, what do you think? What do you think is the key to coming out with a win tomorrow night against Florida?
I am surprisingly unafraid of this game, only because I thought there was a trap game in Arizona, and they ground out a victory. I thought the Colorado game was a trap game, and they blew their doors off 6-0. I think going into Florida, the fact that there might not be a lot of people in the seats, that won't faze them. They're used to that. They played the Coliseum. Until this year, we really haven't seen the type of crowd noise we have so far. I think they know they take every game seriously. I think the trap game thing is somewhat overblown at times, but I think they'll be ready for this one. They only had 1 game at home. They were just on a long road trip. They know what it takes to win on the road. They're going right back out there. I think Florida will be fine. Really, really nervous about the Tampa Bay game because Tampa Bay is going to win the Stanley Cup this year. They're very good. Bishop's phenomenal. Stamkos phenomenal. They have such a fast team. I think they can outpace the Islanders, and I think maybe on Saturday for them, knowing that they turn around and go home right after that, it's a little more nervy, I guess. A little more worried about the Tampa Bay game than the Florida game.
All right, Rich, what do you think is the key to the Florida game tomorrow night?
For me, it's goaltending on both sides. I think the Florida Panthers will kind of fall back a bit and see if they can withstand. I mean, that's like the part and parcel of what a trap game's about, I guess, part of it. I agree with Mikey. It's not so much Florida than Tampa. I am looking forward to seeing Tuesday, really, jumping the gun here, because I know that's Nabokov's return. I'm pretty sure Nabokov's going to get that start.
Mm-hmm.
Because he plays on Monday, I think.
Shoot from everywhere.
You going to that game?
Yeah.
Wow, good for you, man. You doing visitors room or what?
Yes, damn right I
You,
am.
you should stop by, man. Get a quote.
I'm bringing this very mic to the freaking game.
Shoot. So you think Naby's gonna play Tuesday? Shoot from everywhere.
Shoot from everywhere, and
Just
watch
get
him like play his best game.
You
Watch
probably
him. Watch
will.
him get like a 75 save shutout.
He's like, "This is for you, Long Island. I love you."
Yeah, I would love to see the you got to let me know what happens during warm-ups. I want to see if anybody goes over and taps him on the pads or whatever and says what's up because they'll be happy to see him even though he's on the other team. They'll be happy to see him.
I hope so, and I'm definitely gonna follow Stan into the visitors' locker room to see what is gonna go on there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I think guys, we keep harping on these West Coast teams, and and we covet them and say, wow, these guys are really great.
Mm-hmm.
But Mikey's right, man. Is anyone not paying attention to Tampa Bay? Like these guys are like steamrollers.
No, well, I was just gonna say when we get into Saturday here, guys, Tampa Bay scares me tremendously, obviously because Los Angeles is the best team in the NHL. Tampa Bay is a damn close second. I mean, if there is a team that's going to beat the Kings in the Stanley Cup Finals, it's going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're hands down the best team in the East. I guess we can call them the Beast of the East. If there's a team that could challenge the Western Conference for the Stanley Cup, it is the Tampa Bay Lightning.
More so than the Penguins. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think Tampa Bay has found their young replacement, and I say replacement lightly because I love Marty St. Louis, but this kid, Tyler Johnson, has been phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Stamkos is obviously going to lead the way for them in goals. He's got 10 goals, 7 assists. But this kid Johnson with 5 goals of his own, but 13 assists. Kid's a setup man. He had 50 points last year. He's already at 18 this year. I think a lot of teams are sleeping on him because a lot of teams focus on Steven Stamkos. Obviously, you have to. He's a player you can't just let go by in the offensive zone either. But Tyler Johnson is someone to watch in this Saturday night game, and Tampa scares me. I'm afraid of the Florida game because it's the trap game, but I'm afraid of Tampa because it's a second in a back-to-back against the best team in the Eastern Conference, hands down.
Listen, let's just be frank, okay, and just say these back-to-backs with Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh should frighten everyone. Why? Because
I'm not. Okay, so
hold on. But I was going to say this can undo everything that the West Coast swing has begun, because you can easily fall and slip and have a 4-game losing streak. I mean, this is what worries me because these are some strong teams we're playing. We always think that the West Coast is a barometer. It does test our merits, but we got those points are important, but you got to beat your conference rivals, and so here we are, Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. The real test of this November stretch is coming up.
So how much money do we want to put on right now? And I know Mike's going to jump all over this wager. How much money are we putting on that Eric Bolton mysteriously comes off the IR next week in the Pittsburgh Penguins back-to-back?
Man, I wonder what the numbers on that are. I kind of have a feeling Bolton might have that mysterious. I think it was it Keith? No, it was Garrick on Twitter today said I think he's going to come down with that mysterious Radek Martinek injury where he's just on IR for the entire season. I would like to see him back. I think if they're going to keep him around, he's going to be on IR. I would love to see him play that game though.
Because for some reason, and the playoff series was intense, but somehow the Islander-Pittsburgh rivalry was brewing way before that. For some reason, the Islanders and the Penguins is becoming an insane Eastern Conference rivalry where it's either a close game or a blowout bloodbath. There is no in-between anymore. There's no boring game. It's either like overtime or just an insanely good game, or one team kills the other and they just beat the crap out of each other for the other, 48 minutes. So that back-to-back doesn't scare me in the fact of going 0-2. That back-to-back scares me in the fact that I think at least the second game is going to be a bloodbath.
Well, I'm just saying that, there are 5 games that we're seeing only 3 teams, and that's good or bad. I don't know, but what I'm concerned is that this entire momentum that we have can completely be undone because we're thinking, well, it's I don't know if the Islanders are thinking this, but these aren't West Coast dominant teams or cup contending teams or cup playing teams, if you will. Because I for one never underestimate the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm not looking forward to these two games at all. I think they picked for some reason. Yeah, they're rivalry games and whatnot, but the Penguins, for me, the last time they played the Islanders, looked pretty damn good.
All right, Tom brings up a good point again, and let's do this. We have Florida Friday, Tampa Saturday, Tampa Tuesday, Pittsburgh Friday, Pittsburgh Saturday. Who plays when?
It's Halak, Johnson, because that's a back-to-back. I think Halak gets Tuesday against the Bolts, Friday against the Penguins, and Johnson goes again on Saturday back-to-back against the Pens. I think that's the way it's going to work out for the rest of the year, too. Anytime it's a back-to-back, Johnson's going to get it, but Halak's going to play 80% of the games.
Well, so Johnson's going to get 3 games in 3 weeks here because we got. Not only did we play a back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday last week, we played back-to-back this Friday, Saturday. We played back-to-back next Friday, Saturday, Pittsburgh, and then we played back-to-back the following Friday, Saturday, Washington, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So Johnson's going to get some games in here. I agree, though. I think Halak gets tomorrow. Johnson, Halak, Johnson. Rich, I know you disagree with us, so
No, I don't. I'm just I'm looking at the schedule. I'm just thinking, the Washington's back. Well, it's not back to back. So you guys are saying that Halak gets Thanksgiving Eve, and then the Friday after Thanksgiving. So he gets the Caps.
Oh well, we didn't even go that far. We're just saying Halak gets tomorrow and Tuesday and then Friday against Pittsburgh, and Johnson gets Saturday against the Bolts and Saturday against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, exactly what Mikey says. Whenever there's a situation like that, he's the second guy.
And then I would say Halak plays Monday against Philly, Halak plays Wednesday against Washington, Halak plays Friday against Washington, and Johnson plays against the Devils that Saturday.
You really think so? I mean, what if he gets a lot of shots? I mean, the Islanders never play Philly strong. I don't know, man. I don't know anymore.
I mean, unless Halak gets shelled in one of these games and Capuano wants to sit him down and get his head straight or whatever. But I don't think, the way he's played recently, I don't think that slips. I think he's in good form, and I think now it's gotten on schedule where they're going to ride Halak until they physically can't because it's a back-to-back, and you never want to play your goalie back-to-back.
I'm gonna put the feeler out there, but I may go to that Thanksgiving Eve game against Washington.
Let me know, because I'm going.
That may be a thing.
I'm going with my girlfriend.
Oh,
girlfriend. I will not be there because I do not want to travel. I have to go back to Connecticut. I will not travel on Wednesday, so I will be most decidedly out of town for that. But you guys enjoy if you go.
Yeah. I will definitely not be going to November 29th, 2014 AD. As that is a game that we always go to and we always lose and we are bored out of our minds, and that is the New Jersey Devils and the New York Islanders at the Coliseum.
You think Schneider's still playing by then? Or you think they bury him?
I don't know.
I feel bad for him, man.
I was talking to a friend of mine who said she doesn't like hockey, and I was trying to convince her that she should. And she was like, "Well, I've been to a game and it wasn't great. I went to a Devil game," and I was like, "Nope, stop right there."
That was your first mistake.
I was like, "We need to bring you to a real game." But the question I wanted to get to, guys, this one comes from Tom, because Tom asks us awesome questions, and I just lost it. Where is it? Here we go. All right. What's more impressive to us? Kuhlman looking like he's played with Johnny and Kyle his whole career, or the kids' line performance lately, especially against the Kings?
Excellent question. Mike.
Wow. I would say Kuhlman only because I think the kids, having played together in Bridgeport, they were good down there. They're going to be good up here. They were high draft picks. You know, they're players that the Islanders thought that they would build around, and they're proving them right because they're playing phenomenal together. But I think it's Kuhlman for being bought out of a contract and you know, being written off by the Toronto media as a player who's not good and who was carried by Grabovski. For him to come up and play next to a perennial Hart Trophy candidate and make him look better. I mean, was anybody talking during the summer about Kuhlman and how he was going to be a steal at 16.75? Absolutely no one. He was the fourth guy that they talked about as far as free agent signings went, and I think he has played above and beyond anybody's expectations. So I think for me, it's got to be Kuhlman.
And add to that his special teams abilities, right? I don't think anyone thought he was going to bring that to the table, and he is a wonderful replacement for that speed that Grabner gives on the PK. And unlike Grabner, like you said, definitely Shane, that he finishes his plays and scores goals for us. So Kuhlman by far is for me the surprise and definitely the one that merits accolades at this point.
I agree, and pretty much for the same sentiment that I'm impressed the way the kids played. Not terribly surprised. I kind of figured they would be as good as they are. They all have talent. They've played well together in Bridgeport, and you kind of translate over into the NHL level. I think Brock getting that full season last year helps with Strome and Lee coming onto the team this year, and they kind of have someone they could feel comfortable with. So I'm definitely more impressed with Kuhlman's play. I'm real happy the way I was a big proponent of Brock to the first line, but I'm real happy with the way that Kuhlman has played. So I have no complaints. This is the first time in a long time. Oh, that's a lie. I have one complaint, and that's that Johnny Boychuk still is not on the first power play unit for whatever reason.
I had that complaint up until the last two games because Wisnowski has looked very good on that power play.
I still have that complaint because they lack that shot from the point.
But did you notice on I think 2 power plays against Colorado, Boychuk and Viz were on the same pair?
Yeah, I don't like that either because then that eliminates Strome, and I think Strome has I think he has the second best vision of the ice on the team next to Tavares.
All right, made your point there.
Because I love Nielsen, but I like that they've taken Nielsen off that first power play and given it to Strome, because Strome sees the ice so well. All right, before we go, I know Pete wanted us to touch on the yes, yes, yes chant. I'm not quite sure what to make of the report that came out about fans not being happy with it. That confuses me.
I have no idea what this is about. Like, this is so. I mean, I know what it's about, but I have.
In a world where you can sue because your coffee was hot, I guess nothing really surprises me. But the yes chant is not offensive. It is. I think it's something that, and this may be a little bit of a reach, but I think it's something that the players can feed off of and the team can feed off of, that they know that even if the entire fan base doesn't do it, which I mean pretty much everyone does, but at least a section of the fans have your back no matter what. The yes chant, I think, is something that the team can feed off of. It's not offensive. It's to me, it's awesome. My favorite thing is when I can't get to a game and I hear it through my TV, and I could hear the guys. Supporting our team, even though I'm not there. So it's something I don't understand. I don't want to spend too much time on it. It's just something that I don't understand.
Yeah, I'll touch on it real quick. Just for anybody who hasn't heard or doesn't know, it's there was a report today that an unidentified person or persons called the season ticket office and said they were upset about the yes chants. As a season ticket holder, I shouldn't be subjected to this, whatever. If the report is true, I guess people need to complain about things, whatever. It's I think the Coliseum has been empty for so long that no matter what kind of noise they're making, provided it's not offensive, I don't care what you cheer. The players have been playing in an empty building. It's been like when they go to Iceworks in Syosset and they practice. The place is empty. So for them to have fans there now who are loud and into it and passionate, I think that's what they've been waiting for this whole rebuild. And now that it's finally here in the final season, I think that's a good thing. I don't really care what they yell as long as they're making noise.
I just can't believe this is an issue. I really
can't believe it's a thing, right?
All right, guys. So, anyone have anything else they want to touch on before we head out of here tonight?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening again to the 37th episode of the Dump and Chase podcast. We're 3 away from the big 4-0. Mike Wilhoft at Michael Wilhoft. Is there anything you'd like to plug tonight?
Same old. IslandersInsight.com. We have hella new content. Stick with us, guys. We appreciate the reads and the listens and the tweets and all that, so keep it up. We appreciate the support.
Rich Diaz Rodriguez at RDNHL. Is there anything you would like to plug?
Nothing. Just the site and the podcast. Keep reading, keep listening, and thank you for all the support.
And I'm Shane Blackburn at Shane B NHL. You can follow us on Twitter You can check out IslandersInsight.com, the DumpandChasePodcast.com. Twitter is probably the best place to follow us, though, because we have some interesting interactions on Twitter week in and week out, especially on game day. Make sure you're checking out all of our Twitters. I hope you guys enjoyed episode 37. We'll be back next week for episode 38. We're not sure what we're doing the week of Thanksgiving. There's a Wednesday night game. Then obviously Thursday's Thanksgiving. Friday's Black Friday. We'll figure it out once we know. We'll let you know. But hope you guys keep enjoying the show. Let us know. We'd love your feedback. You could leave comments on the websites, tweet at us, and just overall enjoy Islanders hockey. So once again, they are Mike and Rich. We were Andy Graziano. Listen, until next week, I'm Shane B. I'm at Shane B NHL. Damn it, that was going so good too. I'm at Shane B NHL, Shane Blackburn, and let's go Islanders.